it's like a grand piano. You don't really need a grand piano. We're here with the National League. And why do you just have an eye?
Mic check, mic check. Can everyone hear me at the back? Awesome. So I want to thank everyone for coming out today. This is awesome that we've had so much support. I've had a lot of help myself, so I want to take a quick minute and thank some people who've helped me. Peggy Morton from EcoWar, she's been awesome. Got some great help from my friend Matt from my political science program at the U of A, so I'd like to thank him. Sarah Dulfer, she's been a huge help with the press release and getting all the press here, so I'd like to thank her. But most importantly, I'd like to thank everyone here for coming out. This is awesome, awesome, awesome. So, over the past month, we've had a bunch of Canadians weigh in on C51. I looked up this morning on a couple of the petition websites. There's been about 90,000 of us who've had our voices heard, who've signed petitions saying that C51 should not be passed. We have a great list of speakers here today, so I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'll go through the whole rundown in a little bit, but we're a little bit pressed for time. So to start things off, I'd like to welcome from Edmonton Strathcona, NDP MP, Linda Duncan.
Whoa, he's tall. And I'm not. Right. Thanks very much. Moving on to sure. Hi everybody, thanks for showing up. You believe in democracy, right? Unfortunately, we currently have a federal government that does not. I'll elaborate on that in a minute, but I'm absolutely thrilled that I have with me here Craig Scott, our Democratic Reform critic. He's flown in from Toronto to speak to you. And Ray Cash Walters, who's seeking the NDP nomination at Edmonton Centre. So, what is going to stop this bill is you. We're doing our best in the House of Commons to be raising this issue, but if you follow the way that the current strong majority Conservative government is running their affairs, they don't care what we think as the official opposition, and they don't care what you think. What's the proof of that? They're fast-tracking this extremely regressive law through the House of Commons. And they've done this to 91 bills so far. This is just another example. Now, we actually had to filibuster in committee to have more than just 1 or 2 days on this bill. Now, you're concerned about this bill, pretty evident from your billboards you have here, but there's a whole bunch of other people in this country who are equally concerned, and they'd be hardly called left-wing radicals. For example, retired Supreme Court of Canada justices, the Federal Privacy Commissioner appointed by the Harper government, constitutional experts are raising very serious issues about this bill. So, four former prime ministers. I'm not going to go into the detail of the issues under this bill because we have one of the constitutional law experts of Canada here. Before Craig was elected, he taught constitutional law and the Charter of Rights at University of Toronto, so I'm absolutely thrilled that he's here with me today. We are just as deeply concerned about the way that the government is fast-tracking this bill through, which is going to have extremely regressive impacts on your rights as ordinary Canadians. Don't be fooled into thinking that this bill is simply targeting quote-unquote terrorists. Anybody who is informed and knows how to read legislation knows that this bill is going far beyond that. It's going to be putting anybody who stands up like this in a demonstration at risk of being designated a terrorist and at risk of being investigated. And I just want to give you one example of where this kind of behavior has occurred in Canada before. I was working with a group of people and farmers who were concerned about this big high-powered power line going through our farmland from the Waltham area to Calgary. And what did we discover? That the utility authority had hired spies to spy on us and sit in our conference calls. It became such a scandal, they had to shut down the whole utility board. This is the kind of thing that you can expect at the federal level if this bill goes through. It's not simply they're going to be targeting our First Nations who try to demonstrate against industrial development that happens on their lands that is inappropriate when they don't have a voice. It's not just about so-called terrorist extremists. It's going to impact you in your right to express your views. So I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Craig, and I'll let you speak to the content of this bill.
Amazing to see so many people out for this, and you're not alone. I understand that we're looking at something like 50 cities across the country with groups of people as concerned and as engaged as you are. I've just come out of committee on Thursday night where I was asked to come in and do some questioning because of my background in national security law and constitutional law. Can't hear? Can you hear now? Even louder? Okay, can you hear now? All right. I've just come out of a committee Thursday night where C51 was being looked at in the third of its hearings. And I have to say that I came out of there ashamed of being an MP, not for what the NDP and the Greens actually are doing to try to oppose the bill, but by the fact that I have to sit across from Conservatives who use their question with respect to the first Muslim Canadian witness at the committee to leave innuendo for 3 or 4 minutes of innuendo that somehow this person was coming to justify terrorism. It was one of the most disgusting moments I've experienced in my 3 years as a member of Parliament. And all I can say is that Mr. Gardi, Son Gardi, who's the head of the National Council for Canadian Muslims, the way in which he handled that with aplomb, with calm, and with dignity is something that I honestly can't say that I would have done the same in return. This is an awful... This bill truly is a threat, not just to constitutional rights, not just to the rule of law, but also to our very democracy, because we have to remember that this bill, although called in the short title the Anti-Terrorism Act, it's a massive deepening and expansion of the spy state or the surveillance state or the secret state. Now, whatever justifications there are for expanding national security law, none of them have been put on the table by this government as the reasons for going well beyond any focus on terrorism. And even then, when they're focusing on what they think is terrorism, they're doing it in ways that are completely unjustified. There are reasons that we really, really, really should be concerned, if not afraid, of what could come out after this bill gets rammed through the House of Commons, unless we're successful in the way we were with the Unfair Elections Act, C-23. And that is to so force the government back on their heels, they're already not expecting the massive outpouring of resistance across this country, to actually force through 5 or 6 major amendments that will at least get us through to after the next election, when hopefully the entire bill can be repealed and stitched back together in a way that makes sense, both for security and all the values we hold dear. Now let me just tell you 1 or 2 quick things about the bill, because frankly, the list is so long. 2 of my colleagues, Professors Scorsese from Ottawa, University of Ottawa, and Roach from University of Toronto, have written in a kind of guerrilla style over the last month over 200 pages of close analysis of this bill. They are single-handedly most responsible for the awareness of the media and us as politicians of what is in this bill. They all deserve, frankly, the Order of Canada for their work in the last six weeks. What they have detailed, I can only touch the surface on. But here are a few things. There's a new act plunked into this bill. It's called the long title. There's a long title, but the short title is the Information Sharing Act. First thing, as Linda said, the information that can be shared across 17 different government agencies includes a huge, long, open-ended list. It can be added to by the cabinet at will, where terrorism is only one in the list. Okay, one in the list of 8 areas in which information can be shared. They have not included in that sharing circle the review bodies of any of the security agencies except for the Commissioner for a CSEC, which is the Canada Security Establishment. The oversight body that is partial oversight body for the RCMP is not in the loop. And CERC, the oversight body for CSIS, is not in the loop. And the main bottom line recommendation about the Arar commissions and the Air India inquiries were that if you're going to have information flow in order to prevent terrorism, you also have to prevent stovepiping and make sure information can flow to the oversight bodies so they know what's going on across jurisdictions. So the Commissioner for, the CSEC Commissioner, the Commissioner for Security Establishment of Canada, has just written a letter as well. He probably won't get to testify, just like the Privacy Commissioner, who's an officer of Parliament, is not being allowed to testify, saying, he says, I don't understand why you would so expansively create information sharing out into this kind of total awareness state and not include the review bodies. What's the answer? It's deliberate. It's absolutely deliberate. This government does not want oversight or review of any kind. Now, in that Information Sharing Act, there's a provision that says any recipient, that is any of the 17 listed entities, can share the information they receive, and this is a direct quote, with any person for any purpose. Okay? Any person for any purpose. That includes foreign agencies. It includes anybody outside of Canada. This is what Professors Roach and Porcisi call the anti-Maher Arar clause. It basically is a, I shouldn't do this on camera, pretend there's one finger going up. It's basically giving the finger to the Arar Commission and everything we know about what happened to him, what happened to Mr. Almaty, Mr. Al-Malki, Mr. Nuruddin. Then they have the nerve to add a provision that says, and by the way, if information is shared in good faith, there is immunity from any civil lawsuit. So the lawsuit that Mr. Maher successfully brought, there was a settlement against the Canadian government for sharing information with the Americans and the Syrians that led to his rendition and then his torture. Almost certainly it was stupid, it was incompetent, it was callous, but it was probably in good faith. That lawsuit would now no longer be possible, nor would the lawsuits now being brought by the three other gentlemen I named. Another thing they allow is, again, well beyond anything that supposedly relates to terrorism, is a new activity for CSIS in Canada and abroad that we call disruption. They're calling it, in an understated way, measures in the bill. But basically, as long as it's determined by CSIS that something is reasonable proportionate in order to somehow prevent or get in the way of or disrupt activity, including on anything within CSIS's mandate. CSIS's mandate goes well beyond anything to do with terrorism. Then they can do it. If they think that it requires them to break the law or the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, then and only then do they have to go to a judge. But they have to go to a judge and say, can you sign off in advance on violating the Constitution or breaching the law? It's the most ludicrous standing on its head of any proper understanding of the role of rights in a constitutional democracy or the appropriate role of judges. If you're going to ask judges to look at what's reasonable and appropriate, you set out what the measures are in legislation. You have the executive decide whether they're required or necessary in a certain circumstance, and then the judiciary later can figure out whether or not that was justified or you have some other oversight mechanism. You don't turn the judges into agents of the spy state, including in secret proceedings. The proceedings will be secret, and then after the fact there is no follow-up. There's nothing written in to say the judge has to be told what happened to make sure it wasn't abused, etc. Now, there's an absolute limit on what can be done. You cannot intentionally or by criminal negligence kill or bodily harm somebody. That's nice to know. You can impact on somebody's sexual integrity. I assume that probably has something to do with the spy world's use of honey traps and things. I'm not sure. And the third thing is you can't willfully engage in obstruction of justice. Everything else by way of rights that could be infringed under the Charter are on the table. And including the fact, and here, bodily harm and death does not include kidnapping or detention or the forcible sending of somebody somewhere else. CSIS now has powers around the globe, not just for investigation in C44, which already is passing, but in C51 to engage in these disruption measures. When we've asked in committee, all the experts say detention is left open by this language. And then they say, why wouldn't the government specify that it's not allowed? So yesterday in the House of Commons, when one of our members, a critic for public security, Randall Garrison, has been doing an amazing job, stood up and said, is or is not detention included as one of the possible disruption measures in that broad language? They simply refuse to answer. The easiest answer, if it's not, is to say, no, of course. Why are you so paranoid? No, they don't say that. It's proof that they want it in play. Now, the last thing I would say, frankly, there's so much else in this bill, but one of the things that has been deepened in this bill is preventative detention, which means it used to be that if there's a likelihood that somebody will commit an offense even, we always had peace bonds that would allow that. You can be on a warrant or in exigent circumstances, you can be detained in order to prevent that, and then a judge can issue conditions for you staying free because you're a threat to somebody usually. It's usually a personal injury or death threat situation. So now under this bill, it's only, you can be hauled before a judge and conditions imposed. If you breach those conditions, you go to jail, and you can be hauled before a judge for 7 days, not before a judge, but in detention for 7 days before the judge has to decide anything, on the basis of the fact that somebody has judged that you may commit a terrorist offense. Now, one of the provisions in this bill is to say that anybody who somehow or other encourages or promotes terrorist offenses in general, nobody knows what that would mean or look like, in a way that could be reckless as to whether or not somebody might then actually commit some offense, then you yourself are a terrorist. Now, the breathtaking breadth of this in terms of what it could be used for, I had an insight into that Thursday night, because essentially what Diana Blonsky, the Conservative MP, was doing in that committee meeting when she was questioning the representative of the National Council of Canadian Muslims was saying that in the course of your work, when you're taking issues on this organization or that organization, be careful, because otherwise we're calling you a terrorist now, but under this bill, you will become a terrorist, all right? That's effectively what the subtext of that was. So you put the two together, that you recklessly, say something or do something that is reckless as to whether somebody else may commit a terrorist offense. And then you put that together with the fact that you may be preventatively detained if you may commit an offense. And then the threshold for actually pulling people in a preventative detention sweep or regime or threatening people with it in order to achieve other ends, the sky is the limit. So basically, I was about to say regime, and I will say, this is a regime that cannot be trusted. Quite apart from what the analysis reveals about the dangers of the bill, the fact of the government that is pushing it through, the way they're pushing it through, and the way they're refusing to say that some of the worst implications are not in the bill, we have reason to be concerned for the future of our democracy. So thank you all so very, very much for taking the time. Please stay with us. It's going to be your voices that
Awesome. This demonstration is awesome. My name is Ray Cash. And as Linda mentioned, I'm seeking the nomination in Edmonton Centre. So that's the area that's right here. This is the area that I would first like to respectfully note that we're meeting today on Treaty 6 land. This is the traditional territory of the First Nations and Métis people. This government is fear-mongering and fundraising. First Nations communities across the country are concerned that Bill C51 will allow police and government agencies to persecute First Nations citizens defending Aboriginal rights and titles. Environmental and other social justice groups obviously reflect similar concerns. The Conservatives are putting politics over principle. This bill is so broad, it will allow CSIS to investigate anyone who opposes the government's economic, social, or environmental policies. Bill C51 will give CSIS a sweeping new mandate, as Craig mentioned, to disrupt the activities of people or groups it does not like, or that it wants to claim pose any sort of potential threat. But I have a question. Who will watch the scandal-plagued CSIS? This government is fear-mongering and fundraising. Many highly respected individuals, as Linda mentioned, and 4 former prime ministers, I hope you don't miss that, are warning that the broad measures of Bill C51 could lump peaceful protesters like us, such as pipeline demonstrators and others, with terrorists. Bill C51 makes it an offense to advocate or promote terrorism in general. Do we know what in general means? This vague language is cause for concern at best and dangerous at worst. This government is fear-mongering and fundraising. They are using this bill as a wedge issue to collect votes. They do not truly care about our safety, and they have contempt for our rights and freedoms as Canadians. But we will not be intimidated. We will not be pressured into choosing between safety and freedom. Terrorism must be opposed effectively. We all agree. ISIS and other terrorist groups have committed horrific crimes across the globe. They must be stopped. But these events have brought Canadians together. These events have strengthened our resolve to defend our way of life against cowardly attackers who seek to intimidate us and erode our freedoms. This government is fear-mongering and fundraising. Bill C51 is not the way to protect Canadians. A strong Canada is a Canada that puts priority on respecting freedoms, not violating them. If we allow our government to say people who stand up for their charter freedoms are the enemy, the terrorists win. That must not happen. We must not let that happen. We have to stick with this. The way to fight terrorism is not through our own brand of terror. More than ever, we need to remember the words of Jack Layton. My friends, love is better than anger. Hope is better than fear, and optimism is better than despair. So let us be loving, hopeful, and optimistic, and we'll change the world.
Here. It's fantastic you've all turned out. I thank the media for showing up to witness how concerned that Edmontonians are. Every one of you, please write a letter to the Prime Minister opposing this bill. Ask them to withdraw this bill. We need your support in the House of Commons to hold their feet to the fire. Thank you.
All right, thanks to the NDP for showing up. That's awesome that we have their support here. Ms. Duncan, Mr. Craig, Ms. Walton, thank you so much. didn't introduce myself off the top. I'm Doug Yearwood. I helped organize this event, but it's really you guys that made this all happen. This is awesome. Can I get a quick litmus test here? Are we for or against C51? I can't hear you. Are we for or against it? That's what I thought. I like the spirit. All right. Coming up next, we have Brandy Hurup. She's a Green Party candidate for Fort Saskatchewan, Sherwood Park. She's got a few words on C51, so let's welcome her tonight.
My name is Brandy Hurup. I am with the Sherwood Park Fort Saskatchewan Green Party. Bill C51 is a police bill to create a police state. And I ask all of you, do you want to live in a police state? No! Rights, freedoms, and democracy are the foundation that this country was built on. It is woven deep into the fabric of our society. Canadian soldiers have made sacrifices to protect our rights, our freedoms, and our democracy. The Conservative government is poised to take all of that away with one swoop of a pen, and the Liberals are prepared to back them sight unseen. This is an insult to our veterans, the sacrifices they have made, and the lives that we have lost. Is this what kind of leadership we want to see in our Canada? No! No one in the security and intelligence community has said they are lacking the tools to investigate and intervene in terrorist activity. Not one of them. This bill is not required. This bill is not needed. CSIS has been successful all these years without it. Elizabeth May makes three very valid points about this bill. Bill C51 will not make us safer. It will only take away our rights, our freedom, and our democracy. Is that what we want? No! The second point she makes is Bill C51 could actually impede proper investigation and prosecution of terrorist threats due to lack of coordination and lack of oversight. This bill, in my opinion, is not about terrorists. It is about protesters. And we have a right to say when we are unhappy with our government. Our third point that Elizabeth May made last week, this bill is about a big brother with secret tools, a low threshold of truth, and the creation of a secret police act. Is this what we want in Canada? No! This bill is not just about what you put on a website. It's not just about what you put on social media. It is about what you say in a private conversation. Our rights are being stolen away from us with Bill C51. Kill the bill! We will not be silent.
Kill the bill! 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 Kill the bill!
I would like to mention that in 2015, we once again have the chance to vote for the the type of government and the type of representation that we want to have here in Canada. We are powerful. We just have to exercise that power. Let's send a very clear message to the Conservative Party and the Liberals in this election. This government this country does not belong to the government. It does not belong to the corporations. It does not belong to the terrorists. It belongs to us, the Canadians. So come October, I want to see everybody get to those polling stations, cast your vote, and let's take back our Canada. Because democracy takes participation from everyone. And it's not just about voting. If there's a party that you want to see in power, or a person that you want to see get elected, get out there and make it happen. Volunteering and donating to the campaign of your choice, whomever it may be, goes a long way to help us get into office. We get into office, we can fix this. It's going to take all of us to create this change. We're in it together. Let's make this happen. Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill!
Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill!
That's Brandy Harrop of the Green Party for Saskatchewan. Are the Reagan Grannies still here? Where are they? Are they ready to perform a song or two here? Are we all for some anti-government songs? We need some mic help though.
Okay, we are so glad to be here today, even though we're here for the protection and reconstruction of our democratic rights. Too bad we have to always get together for things that make us furious. But I want to mention that Florence is here all the way from Rimbey, a raging granny from a long distance to join in our songs. You know that we've been under the watchful eye of the government for many, many years. CSIS has us on their watch list. And in order to celebrate that fact, we're going to sing our first song. We're a menace to society, a terrible bunch are we, a danger to security of Canada, you see. We do such things as sing for peace and healthcare and for schools, and all the things we do declare must be against the rules. We sing about bad things they do to the environment, to get your rapt attention. It is our intent. We sing against all violence. Now is that really bad? We guess it is 'cause it has made old CSIS really mad. Regardless of what the government does, we will continue to be out on the streets because we think the right to protest is our sacred right, and this is our song about it. Without the right to protest, where would we be? Without the struggles of the past, there's no democracy. No votes for women, The poor would have no schools. Small tots would still work in the mines, while rich folks set the rules. Canada voiced its outrage when police used pepper spray. Governments need to face the fact that folks must have their say. People see what's going on, find power in the word. The right to speak for what is right, our right is to be heard. Okay, just one more, because I know there are a lot of people and you're patiently standing to hear them all, not just us, but this is one of our favorites, and we can't resist singing it for you. Ready? We're criminals exposing stuff that's going wrong, belting out our vital messages in song. We poke and we pry and then expose what the big guys hope no one knows. We're Canada's most wanted. We're pesky raging rats. We're mouthy older women. We're pesky raging rats. We've got our eyes upon you. We're checking out your plans. You think you can fool the people twice by acting bad but smiling nice. But pennies don't fool easy. We're wised up raging rats. Try to put the lid on, try to shut us up. Pepper spray won't do it, nothing makes us stop. We've been around and we don't scare. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. Don't ever drink to gag us. Here come the raging ground.
So a big hand for the Raging Grannies. That's awesome. All right, coming up next, Neha Wazi.
Thank you. So, Assalamu alaikum. May peace be upon you all, and good afternoon. I'm so thrilled to see so many faces here, so many ages, so many cultures, everybody here. So when I say that you can assume the horror that I felt when I heard about Bill C51, it wasn't just my fear, it's the fear that we all have, and that's the reason why we're here today. The bill, though it is Anti-Terrorism Act, it changes its wording, as mentioned previously, from people who will commit to people who may. And that just about puts everybody underneath the radar. That puts Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Aboriginals, environmental groups, healthcare groups, anybody who doesn't want what the status quo is saying, anybody who wants to bring about a change, anybody who wants to fight for what our rights and freedoms say that are enshrined in our charter, which is being violated. It's going against, it goes against what we want. It goes against what our building blocks of Canada are. And this has happened briefly before. In 1970, where some of you might remember, where Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau put in action the War Measures Act. Just hours after that act was put in place, 3,000 searches, 497 people were detained without due process. They were not given the rights and freedoms that were listed for them. They were held for weeks, and they were all released without any charges. because they had done nothing wrong. They were just speculated. And Pierre Trudeau put it in action because 2 government officials were killed by the FLQ. But many people saw the potential of abusing the War Measures Act, and it was done so. The mayor of Vancouver threatened to use the crisis as an opportunity to run hippies out of town. CBC self-censored its programming and fired 1 journalist for reporting on the FLQ. This is our media. They're being censored to us. If they're being censored, then can you imagine what else is being censored when it's being brought to our attention? The passing of Bill C51, though it is against terror, will only sow terror in the form of fear and racism in the Canadian citizens. Any group in Canada, including Indigenous organizations, environmental groups, and activists engaged in political dissent, might find themselves targeted on watch lists and the subject of national security surveillance and information sharing based on very vague and opaque standards. The use of this information is subject to abuse and improper sharing. Already, Muslim communities in Canada feel that the new amendments are targeting them as purveyors of terrorist or terrorist ideas. The implementation of the amendment has tremendous potential for being disproportionately weighted against Muslims. As said so by Harper's statements on Mosques in Canada and linking them to terrorist organizations or the ideas of terrorism, which is not true. Other minority groups are at a determinate risk of prejudice, and the Act enables government officials to determine on easier rulings, and every Canadian will lose rights and freedoms that could be difficult or even impossible to reclaim. Canadians deserve an open and robust debate about the bill, so that adequate safeguards are included, and that the bill supports the Constitution, which is the building block of Canada. If we are afraid that our rights and freedoms are being threatened, then removing these rights and freedoms ourselves creates the very situation that we're so afraid of. Let us not be ruled by fear. We must demand that our elected representatives promote equality and cohesiveness, and so that, because we do live in a multicultural country, and them dividing it does not do anybody justice. Thank you.
Thanks, Naya. Appreciate your words. Thank you. It was just brought to my attention that, you know, we should also be talking about how this is our democratic responsibility to come out here, show our freedom of expression, and let the government know that we don't support C51. Awesome. I think it's awesome that so many people came out today. It's a beautiful day, and the energy out here is unbelievable. So thanks so much again for coming out. We have a few more speakers. Coming up right now is Crystal Lehman. She's a member of the Beaver Lake Cree Nation, Treaty Number 6 and Sierra Club Canada Foundation, the Alberta Climate and Energy Campaigner, and I'd like to welcome her to the mic right now. Thank you.
I love that. First Nations peoples defending their lands are not criminals. Stop way. Crystal Lehman, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Crystal Lehman, Beaver Lake Cree Nation, Treaty Number 6. I'm grateful to be standing here in my home territory of Treaty 6, and I give thanks today for my ancestors who fought for I and my children's right to be here and to be free. Here we stand today addressing yet another suite of legislation, and one that now promotes fear. Promoting fear. And as First Nations people, we've known about that since the time that this government came to be. We help this country, we help build this country on the freedom and fundamental rights of every person born into this nation state that we call Canada. We also know all about how those rights to freedom have been abused and ignored. And now this government has turned on its own. And it's your choice how much you're willing to give up. Over 100 years after a treaty was entered into, here we stand, still fighting for the very freedoms we helped build this country on. And this bill says that if you jeopardize the economic or financial stability of Canada through protest, you can be deemed a criminal. And this is clear demonstration that the government fears the voice of reason so much. So much so that if you open your mouth or act in the betterment of the rights of nature and basic human rights, you can and will be labeled a security threat. Freedom of speech, freedom to act in a democracy, and freedom as a law-abiding citizen of this nation state, abolished. And who gave Harper and his minions the right to define how I express my right to freedom of speech, and in turn express my concern for those that cannot speak for themselves, the rights of nature and the inherent rights of the original people of this land? If you oppose government policy, just as we have done, and those before us have done, because we have been faced with no choice when legislation like Bills C38 and 45, as two small examples, are rammed down our throat. This government thinks it will pass more legislation to continue this assault on our fundamental rights and freedoms and further attempt to silence us. Harper, let today and the over 40 actions across Canada show you that we will not go quietly. As a First Nations woman who was born into this very assault of my rights, of which you are now experiencing, I tell you, persevere, because our fight is now your fight. Get up, stand up. If not for you, for the generations to come who will be left to face the trail of destruction Harper and his followers have left. In the words of late Treaty 6 Chief Big Bear, I and my people will not be led around with ropes around our necks. I will assert I and my children's inherent right to self-determination and our right to free, prior, and informed consent. As a Nehiyaw woman, I will get up, stand up. As long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the rivers flow.
Crystal Raymond. I think what we're learning today is that the exclusionary discourse that's being used by the Conservatives is helping nobody. What we need is to have a true and inclusive discourse that respects and speaks about minority perspectives and narratives. And that is at risk of being taken away by C51. So it's great to have people out here today standing up for the right that they have to express themselves. And we're letting the government of Canada know that we're not going anywhere anytime soon, and I love that. Coming to the mic now, we'll have Siobhan Vipon, the Secretary-Treasurer with Alberta Federation of Labour. I think she's here. There she is.
Hi sisters and brothers, I'm here on behalf of 165,000 unionized workers here in Alberta. We stand in solidarity with you because this bill is an attack on our workers' rights, and that is a problem. This bill is vague, and vague bills make bad law. But that's what this government does, and so people don't notice. And yes, this is an attack not only on minorities, but this is an attack on the majority. And so I'm glad you are here to have your voices heard. This government wants to frame this as if we are with them or we are terrorists. And that is an insult on this democracy. This bill aims to demonize the rights that workers have fought for, which includes job action, striking, the right to organize. RCMP and CSIS in the past have targeted not only the labor movement, but its leaders by getting information from them and then turning it against us. It is our right to unionize, and it is our right to stand up for that. So I stand here with my Muslim sisters, and I stand here with my Aboriginal sisters, and I stand here with all of you to say enough is enough. This is an attack not only on workers, this is an attack on democracy. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Solidarity.
One by one, Alberta Federation of Labor. Coming up next, someone who's helped me so much this week, I can't thank her enough. Peggy Morton from the Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism. Been a huge help this week, and I'm so happy to contribute it.
Thank you, Doug, but let's give the credit where it belongs to all of us who've come out here, who've told our friends, who've brought our communities, and who now have the responsibility to keep that fight going. To keep that fight going, as our Echo War banner says, to defeat Harper in 2015. To make this fight against Bill C51 what it is. And that is a fight where we say that rights belong to us. They belong to us as human beings. We don't have rights because Harper gave them to us, or because we have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Because if that's the case, then they can be taken away. And we have, let us remember, a Charter of Rights with a standing clause. And if we don't think Harper's getting ready to use it, I think we should give it sober thought. So what we're here today to say is that we are one in that fight to defend the rights of all. We are one when any one of us is attacked. You know, I think we're also here, well, we know we have to work hard to defeat Harper, that's only a first step towards something else. Because the question we have to ask ourselves is how, in what is called a democracy, can these things be happening? How can a bill like this be shoved through Parliament? How can debate be limited? How can people, even the Privacy Commissioner, be stopped from coming to Parliament and saying what this bill is? How can this government be single-mindedly attacking these rights? And let me say to you, this bill has not yet been enacted, and let us think about what is taking place. At Concordia University, I have to find this and read it to you. This is the statement from Concordia University in response to the question of the Library of the Muslim Students. They say that he has been tasked to review with the Muslim Students Association, the library, to ensure its contents reflect the law and reflect the values of the institution and our society. I want people to really reflect on what's being said here. Do we not, as enlightened human beings, believe that to have learning, one must have access to everything that exists? Not what someone decides is good for you. Besides the important question of who defines the values of a society, to say that an academic library or any library should reflect the values of our society is a Nazi conception. And we say never, never, no. Now the same issue is coming up as regards people's personal tastes, including the right of women to decide what they're going to wear. We say to Harper, you have no business telling women or anyone else what they want to wear. We don't live in a Nazi society, and we're not going to. If Harper wants to show his concern for women, let him get down on his bloody knees and ask forgiveness from the First Nations women. Let him say that when I said that the question of the murdered and missing and murdered Aboriginal women is not high on my radar, that this was a crime against the Aboriginal women. So my friends, my brothers, my sisters, all of this is happening and this bill has not even been enacted yet. So what is this bill about? I think we know. I think we're clear. This bill is to attack our right of conscience and create an atmosphere in Canada where the fight against the Harper anti-social, anti-people, anti-worker, anti-woman, anti-Aboriginal, neoliberal agenda, our fight against that, that's what's the target of this bill. That's right. And what are we going to take from this rally today? Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Defeat Harper in 2015! I want to say one more thing in closing, and that is this, that let us remember, it's not just directed against us. It's to create a situation in Canada where people don't speak up against Harper's decision to commit war and aggression all over the world. He's already said that they have a zero-tolerance policy towards anyone who stands up for the right of the Palestinian people and their right to be. He wants Canadians to be silent when they attack, when they start a new war again in Iraq, when they go into Syria, when they destroy country after country after country. Leave the people there with no security, with their children, with their families torn asunder, and we must speak up against Harper's policies of war and aggression. Thank you very much. Stay tuned to ECHOR's Facebook page. We're going to keep on organizing actions right through until October. Thank you.
Kill the bill! Kill the bill!
Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill!
Hell yeah! Everywhere we go! Harper wants to know!
Harper wants to know
Who we are!
who we are.
So we tell them! We are Canadian!
We are Canadians.
Good fucking Canadians!
Good fucking Canadians.
And if you can't hear us,
If you can't hear us,
we'll have to shout louder!
have to shout louder.
That's all I got for now. Alright, we have one more speaker. Greenpeace has been huge in this. They made some awesome signs. You can see we have this camera right here. It's pretty badass. Some awesome signs here. They've been a huge help. And coming to the stage now, or to the mic rather, is Katrina Armstrong with Greenpeace.
All right, how's everyone doing today? Excellent. So my name is Katrina Armstrong. I've been volunteering with Greenpeace here in Edmonton for the past 3 years. And there are legal and peaceful things that I have done that could fall under the vague definition of terrorism within this bill. I personally have been involved in the activist community in Edmonton for the past 3 years, and because we're in the belly of the beast, it has taken a copious amount of time and effort to build solidarity, support, and foundation for change. I think that it's extremely important for people to feel as though they have the power and the right to stand up against how their country is being run, and I believe that this bill will restrict people's confidence dramatically. We keep hearing that this bill will not apply to protesters or activists who gather in peaceful assembly. But the fact is, shame. But the fact is that the vagueness of this bill and the specific references to Greenpeace that have been leaked in the RCMP report lead us to believe otherwise. With this report and all of the other measures that the government has taken against environmentalists, First Nations people, minority groups, and scientists, and so many more, how can we believe anything that they say? We have the democratic right to speak out against the ways in which our government runs the country, and Bill C51 limits those rights dramatically. I don't want to see my work and all of our efforts to make Alberta a better place be laid to waste by this bill. So myself and the Greenpeace local group have planned another interactive event on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. And because we feel that Canadians should not be fooled by this bill and the fear-mongering tactics of the Harper government. So we are actually doing a casting call. It's going to be very interactive, like I said. I don't want to give too much away. So if you're interested in getting involved, because we do need quite a few people, we need artists, we need people to help with communications and building and things like that, please come to this amazing security camera that we've built. Myself and a few other people will be there. We'll be taking emails down to get some assistance with that. Thank you very much.
Who's ready to do a march? Yeah, that's what I thought. We're all ready to. So, this wasn't done by me, but David Lang, who's with Occupy Edmonton, he's here. He has a nice map drawn out, hand sketched, and I'll bring him to the mic. He'll detail the plans for us here.
Hi everyone, yes, I'm David Lang with Occupy Edmonton. We've put on many marches over the last few years, and this is just impromptu, but there wasn't a march planned. I suggested to the organizer that we have a march, and I think there's a crowd into that. We want to march? Okay, so the march is being planned. We're going to make a right down Jasper. We're going to go all the way to 100th Street. We're going to make a right on 100th Street. We're going to walk up to 102nd Avenue, make a right on 102nd Avenue. That'll be right where Churchill Square is. We'll walk down 102nd Avenue to 97th Street. We'll make a right there, and we'll end up back at that corner here, basically right here again. So that's going to be the march. I've got 2 more marshal vests if anyone wants to marshal. The police have not been informed about this, so I doubt they'll have the roads blocked off for us. So we need experienced marshals who want to help keep the crowd safe. Thank you, everyone.
Just a couple last things. I want to thank everyone again for coming out here today. Let's hear a big round of applause for everyone who showed up. Oh yeah. One more time. Are we for or against C51? Hell yeah, louder. Are we for or against it? All right, last thing I gotta say is fuck Stephen Harper. Let's do this!